What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to another amazing episode of the Can't Be Broken podcast. Not just another amazing episode, but the first episode of 2026. Woo! Woo! Y'all, I cannot believe and I can believe at the same time that we have been around the sun 365 days with the Can't Be Broken podcast, and we are starting 2026 off right. I am super, super excited. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who has been tuning in and to all of the new followers. Thank you guys so much for the support because you know that this podcast is here to help us educate, empower, and encourage others. Oh my goodness, we are in for a treat today. Y'all, it's 2026. Like it is January 2026 and we are still going strong. All of last year, new episode every single week, and we gonna do it again this year. You know why? Because God be doing what God be doing, and God said we gonna run this thing. And you know what I said? Do your thing, God. God said I got you. I said okay, let's go. Anyways, if you've never been here before, welcome to the show. We got 3 simple goals: to educate, empower, and encourage. We're here to educate anyone who has never been in abusive relationships, don't understand abusive relationships, why people stay, how they get involved, what's going on. You're going to find out because there's a whole lot of trauma in the background that people don't even know about. You know what I'm saying? You're going to find out. We're here to empower all of our survivors to stand up and share your story without shame, fear, guilt, or judgment because you are strong, you are powerful, and your voice deserves to be heard. And to anyone who is currently suffering in silence, listen, you are not alone. You're not crazy. Abuse is not normal. Your feelings are valid. And despite how it may look and feel in this very moment, there is always a way out. And we encourage you to safely seek support. Now, you know what we got to do? We got to go ahead and hop up in this thing because we're going to rise above these insecurities, release the burdens of shame and guilt, and revive our God-given power, purpose, and passion. The confidence way because we about to light it up. Y'all, okay, we don't even have to do a full introduction this time, but then we do because you know what? Happy New Year! I am super, super, super excited because one, like I said, we have been around the sun 65 times this year with oh wait, not 365 times. One time around the sun, 365. It's not science class, but it is the Can't Be Broken podcast, and we are still here kicking it strong. And we are starting this year off with a part 2. So if you've never been here before, you don't know who she is. But if you've been here before, and I know you've been here before, welcome back to the show, Miss Natalie in the building. Pew, pew, pew,
Hi.
pew. And yes, it is a new year. I got a new chair, but I don't have a soundboard yet. Don't judge me, because we're going to make it do what it do. And you got to go back and watch Natalie's part 1 if you haven't seen it, because where we ended is where we're picking up today.
Yeah.
And the key word for this episode is sugar daddy. Natalie.
Yes. Welcome
I'm
back.
excited. Welcome back.
Yeah, we left off where he'd contacted and found a sugar daddy. He was previously dating a sugar baby, and he realized that sugar daddies gave you money, and his sugar baby didn't have to sleep with the sugar daddy, apparently. So he had this great idea that getting a sugar daddy would be the next step. So he found this guy.
Hang on, wait a second though. But why is he getting a sugar daddy? Are y'all still in a relationship?
Yeah, we're still in a relationship.
And you're working.
Yeah, I'm working. I just quit smoking. So he bullied me to stop smoking. He was like, "Oh, you can't quit smoking. You're so weak, whatever." So I quit smoking. So at this stage, he was just sick of me because what would happen is I would quit smoking, and then I would just be like, "You're a," basically. I'd just be direct to him, like, "You're being abusive. I don't want to be with you anymore." So I would kind of get my head straight, and then I'd decide that I didn't want to be in a relationship with anymore. So he was just sick of me by this time. We were still in a relationship, but we were arguing a lot. He decided to make an OnlyFans to make his own money, and then he found the sugar daddy, and he started having phone calls with him. Now that I'm on the outside and I understand what narcissists are like, now I can see now that should have been a massive red flag for me. Like his once he got this idea that this sugar daddy owned an insurance company and that he was gonna become this guy's not his mentor. This guy was going to be his mentor, and he had decided in his head that he was going to take over this man's business. This is what he'd decided because he worked in insurance before, so he was really good. He was a mass manipulator. All narcissists are, right? So he decided that he was going to take over this man's business. So he had he'd made this story up in his head where he was going to meet this man, take over his business, he was going to become this millionaire. So his eyes turned dark, really dark, and he was pacing up and down the house, talking to this man on the phone. He was talking to himself. He was like psychosis. I'm not kidding. Now that I look back on that, it was definitely a psychotic episode where he had just gone into a narcissistic, I don't know what you would call that, a narcissistic, demonic, I don't know what it was, an episode.
This is
And
interesting. Hold on a second.
yeah,
And pardon my interruption.
no,
This is
no.
very interesting because in a physically abusive relationship, that is often said that they see their eyes turn dark, which been there, seen it. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like their spirit leaves their body and then something else enters, and they're not the person that they were born as, but they're carrying this demonic spirit is what it feels like and looks like. And for you to say that as excuse me, as someone who's not physically attacking you right now, but
Mm-hmm.
literally just thinking about what their plans are in regards to someone else's company and business. And for the people who haven't watched episode one, part one, I should say, y'all are in a relationship, y'all finally move in together, and he's not really being helpful financially, right?
No,
And
he
you're
never
doing it
was.
all.
Yeah.
He wasn't quote unquote attracted. It was just a weird thing. It was a weird dynamic. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious as to why when you got to a space where you would stop smoking and then you would talk to him that way and you would not have any respect for him and you would want to leave, why didn't you just go ahead and leave? What happened that kept you staying there before the whole sugar daddy thing
Mm-hmm.
developed into what it was?
So we were living together, but he was not on the lease because he didn't have a job. So when we found this apartment, he agreed to pay in the bond. He paid the bond, and I would be on the lease. So what happens is, if I left the house and he didn't pay the rent, I was on the lease. So my
Hmm.
name was legally tied to this property. So that's one of the reasons why I couldn't just leave. But he also wouldn't leave either. So if we decided to break up, he'd say, "Well, I'm paying rent, you should leave. I don't have anywhere to go." He'd say I don't have anywhere to go when I didn't actually have anywhere to go because I was at the other side. I was in Australia at this time.
Hmm.
Um, so one of the reasons why I couldn't leave is because I was tied to this property. I was tied in a lease and he was not on the lease. So I couldn't just say to the real estate, "Oh, I'm leaving, he can take over the lease." He couldn't because he didn't have a job. So
Hmm.
that was one of the main reasons why I couldn't just pack my bags and leave because if anything happened to the house, it was on my name.
So you were also paying. So he paid the bond. He started off, but afterwards, because he didn't have a job, you were now paying,
He
and
was
he.
on he was on government. He got some money for the government, but it wasn't a lot of money. So it covered maybe a bit of his rent, and then I paid for food and my
Hmm.
half of the rent and
Hmm.
his drug addiction. We both smoked marijuana at this stage.
Hmm.
So I was paying for that as well, yeah.
And he would tell you that you couldn't quit, even though he was smoking too.
Yep. Yeah.
It.
The way the way he would manipulate me, now that I see it from the outside, I'm like amazed because
Yes.
there is one part of the relationship further down in the story where he does get physically violent, but he wasn't physically violent towards me. The whole relationship was just pure manipulation. It was
Hmm.
pure emotional abuse. Yeah,
One
crazy.
thing that they're good at doing is deflecting. It's like they put up a mirror but they face the mirror towards the person that they're with. And
Yeah.
even knowing that they're doing so many things wrong, that are toxic, that are unhealthy, they want to constantly highlight your mistakes, your faults, and all this other thing, and not take accountability. Because how I'm going to sit here and smoking, and then I'm telling you, you're so weak you can't smoke.
Yep.
In my case, Harpo over here would be like, because it was really, he would really use the Bible for a lot of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
he would say things like, you're the weaker vessel. And I'm like, you can't even exercise, like, you can't even work out consistently. And we're supposed to have a training business.
Mm.
You can't stay disciplined to not drink. And we're supposed to have all of these things. And you saying that, when you initially said it, I'm thinking he doesn't smoke, but he's sitting here doing it too.
Yeah.
Girl,
Yeah.
so did you ever try, or did you ever think to call the police since his name wasn't on the property and say, hey, this guy is like, we're not together anymore. Now he's technically trespassing. Can you please make him leave?
Um, I did eventually go to the police asking that question, but I didn't go to the police until I had a black eye, until I had
Okay.
some sort of proof. But we will get to that soon.
Yes.
That's coming soon in the story.
Blessed assurance. Okay,
Yeah,
so we back on track. I just had to figure out what was happening
that is
prior
fine.
to the sugar. So, guys, in case you didn't put all the pieces together, they move in together, all of the rent, everything we just talked about. And he comes up with this brilliant idea that he who is not gay, according to him. And no offense
Apparently.
to anyone, if that's your lifestyle, we welcome you, we love you, all of the things. But he who says he is not gay decides, I'm going to get on an OnlyFans page to find myself a sugar daddy, not even a sugar mama who could probably do the same thing. But that's not my thought process. So he says, I'm going to go straight for the sugar daddy. I'm going to pretend to be in this lifestyle so that he can now fund me and I can then help take care of the rent. But I'm not going to do anything with him. And I'm going to learn how he runs his business, and I'm going to take over his business.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now he's pacing back and forth with the demonic black
Yeah.
eyes that
Yeah.
abusers tend to have, which is that blows my mind. Okay, anyways. So he gets there, and what happens?
So he paces up and down the house, talking to him on the phone for hours. At this stage, he'd already discarded me in his head. I was already invisible to him. He didn't care what I had to say. He didn't care about me at all. He just his focus was this guy and his business and how he was going to take over this business. So he would pace up and down on the phone, talking to this guy for hours on the phone while he's still in my house. Well, our house, my house. And one day he just packed his bags and left. Packed his bag and just left. He said, I'm going to go meet him. So he packed his bag. He got on the train and went to wherever he lived and met up with him. And he, I can't remember if he stayed the night or not. Anyway, he came back and then he packed all of his stuff and left the next day. So he went to meet him and then he met him and then he came back and then he packed a bigger bag and he took not all of his stuff, a bigger bag. And then he went back to this guy and left me in this house to pay the rent by myself, of course. And he told me that we were still together, that he was going to help, he was going to send me money and help look after me and help pay for the house and stuff. Told me this whole lie, obviously. And then he left. And then we would talk. We wouldn't talk on the phone, but we would talk through Instagram or through WhatsApp, and he'd like update me on what was going on. He'd gone to this guy, and this guy was part of the Freemasons. Do you know what Freemasons are?
I don't know the full extent of it, but I have heard of it.
So it's like a cult, right? And he'd learned the first day that he'd gone on this to meet him. When he came back, he told me that he was part of the Freemasons and that he'd met a man really high up in this cult, right? and that he was very powerful. He'd basically seen power and made a plan in his head of how he was going to take over or manipulate or be a part of this Freemasonry cult thing. I don't really understand a lot about it, to be honest, but he went to where this man lived. He came home, got his stuff, left again. And then a few days later, I see on his Instagram story, because he'd made an Instagram, that he was with a girl, right? This random girl. And I was like, who is this girl? And he's like, oh, I went on a date. So,
Okay, wait, because we completely left.
yeah.
We completely did not tell any of our new listeners that in the previous episode, he kept pressing you for an open relationship. Kept
Yes.
pressing. You didn't want an open relationship.
No.
You wanted just to be with him. And then you said, well, you know what? F it. If you want an open relationship, we can do that thing. And you go out there.
And I found myself a really sexy man.
Who had to have you.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, did that piss him off?
Yeah, it did. It did. This story is crazy. I tell you this story and I'm like, this did not happen to me. This
It
is crazy.
happened. It
Didn't happen.
happened. Girl, so you decide to indulge yourself in the open relationship since this is what we're gonna do. He finds out about it, then he goes ballistic. He's
Yep.
irate, he's pissed off. How dare, blah, 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 blah. He wants the open relationship, but he only wants it to be open on his end because your door is supposed to be closed to all other people. Controlling all of the things that they do, right?
Yeah.
I'm blown away. I have so many questions right now. One, this isn't even a question. This is almost like an observation from the outside looking in. He goes onto the OnlyFans. He finds somebody. He goes and meets them. He comes back. He's automatically packing his bags. And in his mind, he's about to go manipulate them. But it just sounds like he's already gotten manipulated. Like for me to believe that I can come in here and do all of these things, you've had a great enough conversation for me to convince myself to go pack my stuff and come back to move somewhere that I've never been to with people that I don't know and think I'm going to take over. That was my first
Yeah.
observation. Second, why are y'all only communicating via social media and WhatsApp as opposed to actually the phone?
Because this man didn't know that we were still together. Like this, his sugar daddy didn't know that he had a whole relationship, obviously. So there was quite minimal communication between me and him. I didn't really know what was going on, to be honest. He just left. And
And he
then,
didn't explain that.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He explained that this guy obviously didn't know that he was with me. And
So
I
now
later,
you're like, so now you're like the side chick to a whole nother
crazy
relation,
ex.
to
I'm
a
the crazy ex now.
to a fake
Yeah.
relationship.
Yes.
But y'all are still together, Tammy, really, in real life.
Yeah.
And now he's only communicating with you in secret on Instagram and WhatsApp. How much older is the guy, the sugar daddy? Do you know?
No, he's not old. He wasn't old. He was like maybe like 45 maybe. I know that's not young. It's not young. 45 is not old. He wasn't
It's
old.
not old.
No.
And how old is
He was
your
he
guy?
at that stage he would have been like maybe 31 maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Definitely not old enough to be his daddy. Okay.
No.
That definitely old enough to have a acceptable relationship in the public eye. Like it wouldn't look too weird.
No.
Okay, so then pops up this random girl on his Instagram. You ask who
So
it is, and he's on a date with her because he leaves to be in a fake committed relationship with somebody else while you're still in a relationship with you. And now he's pretending to go out on dates or going out on dates with someone else.
yes. So on his Instagram story, he'd made a story like this, like a film, and there was a girl in it, and I'm like, who? I was like, who is that girl? And he's like, oh, I'm on a date. Excuse me? Oh, what? So yeah, he was on a date, and that was the. I was just like, oh, I'm not doing this. I'm just tired. I'm not doing this. So I
Mm-hmm.
just blocked. I blocked him. I blocked him, and I got on with my life. I went out with my friends. I started building my own life again. Um, and about 2 months later, he turns up at my front door again.
Stop playing. Wait, so
No.
in your head, the relationship is over.
Yeah.
No conversation even needs to be had. I'm not even wasting any more energy on you.
No. Yeah.
So you're out
Yep. I'm out. I block
and you're
him.
moving on and you're
And I'm,
loving on you again.
yeah, I'm living life, going out with my friends, going horse riding, doing all the things, being me again, finding myself again, doing all the things that I love doing, continue working, going out with my friends. Um, and then he just shows up at the doorstep with his bags 2 days, 2 months later. He had psoriasis all over his arms. I'd never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
He had um he'd lost loads of weight. Like he looked like an animal that had gone missing and had been living in the wilderness,
Gosh.
had, and couldn't find food and had come back, found their way back. He looked like a shabby cat, basically. That's what he looked like.
Oh my gosh. So, so he just pops up on the doorstep. Are you at home or do you come home and you find him there?
I'm at home. I'm at home, and he knocks on the door, and he comes to the door basically because we lived in an apartment block, but there
Mm-hmm.
was only 4 stories, so it wasn't really big. So you could get in and out of the apartment gate easily,
Mm-hmm.
quite easily, and then the door to the actual apartment blocks are always open. So he just came to the door basically. Um, he told me what had happened. He told me that this guy had fallen in love with him, and that he told this guy that he wasn't in a closed relationship with him. He told me that. I said, did you sleep with him? And he said no. He said no. um he said that this sugar daddy gave him oral sex. I said, and did you finish? And he said yes. And I was like, what were you thinking? Well, what were you thinking about? And he said, this is the most narcissistic answer. This should have been the red flag. He said to me, the only reason I finished is because I was thinking that if this millionaire wanted to, then that's what made me finish. What? Do you understand what I mean? What he means by that? That's his ego. That's just plain ego. That is the most narcissistic answer he could have ever said. Yeah, I know. So, and then all of a sudden his phone rings. His phone rings, and he picks it up, and he goes, do you miss me? To someone on the phone. And I'm like, who are you talking to? And he's like, oh, it's Katie. I'm like, who the f is Katie? So he's in my house with me, telling me what's happened, right? And then a girl rings his phone, and the first thing he says is, do you miss me? So he tells me that the girl that he'd seen on my story, he started dating her. And then he started dating another girl. And because he said that he obviously wanted to make friends, like he didn't have any friends there. Um, Whatever story he told himself, he just wanted to feel less gay. Let's be honest. This guy wanted to feel less gay, so he started sleeping with women again. I don't know. Is that somebody watching this is going to be like, that is the most gay thing I've ever seen? A man sleeping with women to pretend he's not gay or whatever it is. I don't know. To this day, I don't know if he's gay or if he's not. I don't care. But that's crazy. So he came back. He was speaking to this girl on the phone. I was really angry about that. I was like, that's really disrespectful for you to do that. Um, and then he just stayed. I couldn't get rid of him again. He stayed. And
Did you
um,
tell him to leave?
of course, yeah, I told him to leave, that he couldn't stay there. I
What was
told
his
him
response?
that he wasn't going to go anywhere, that he had nowhere else to go. I said that I was going to, oh, because I forgot to tell you that when I blocked him, I contacted his parents to come and get his stuff from my house. I told them that he'd left me. I didn't say about the gay thing. I didn't say that because that would just be spiteful and I wouldn't have got anywhere by telling them that. I just said that he'd left somewhere and he just left me. So I called his parents to come and get the rest of his stuff that he'd left. So they came and I had a conversation with his parents. And his dad just basically said, yeah, he's selfish. He always has been and he always will be, basically. That's what his dad said. And then, yeah, so he came back, he wouldn't leave again. Um, and then we just
So why
probably,
didn't you call anybody that time? Why didn't you call his parents or the police and be like, hey, because he's clearly 2 months, he's not paying rent anymore.
yeah,
He's not living there anymore. His stuff isn't even there anymore except for what he has in his bag. Why don't you, and you're moving on. Like, do you remember what you were thinking as to why you let him stay?
I called his mum, and his mum and dad didn't ever do anything and never could do anything to control him, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
They were not going to do anything. Um, there's nothing I could do. Not not long went by. The arguments continued after this, right? So he stayed. We continued arguing all the time, until one day I called him gay boy during
Wait
an
a second.
argument.
Wait. Because we're about to get all the way in some stuff. I have
Yep.
a question for you. When he
Mm-hmm.
stayed, were y'all at the point where y'all were just like y'all were living like roommates, or were you back open to being in a weird relationship with him beyond just roommates?
Um, I don't know. To be honest, I really don't know. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why I let him come back. I don't know why I let him stay. I think I was just manipulated by him, to be honest. Um, I don't know. I can't really answer that question.
Okay.
I don't know. I remember that I called his mum to come and get him, and there's nothing his mum would do or say, or even his dad. When his dad would never find out about our fights. I'd call his mum, and
Mm-hmm.
his mum was like a little puppet.
Yeah.
There's nothing that she could do or say to him. He didn't care what anybody. He didn't care about the police. He didn't care about his parents. He didn't. There was nobody that could say anything to him that he cared about at all. He didn't care. He felt like he had control and power over absolutely everybody else on the planet. So
That's exactly how they feel, and that's exactly how they
yeah,
operate. And it blows my mind. They want to be leaders, they want to be powerful, they want to be this and that, but they don't have it's like their view of leadership and power is so distorted because they don't
control.
have the humility right
Mm,
to be led. A leader needs to be able to be led, to be able to be told something, to be able to be have wisdom imparted upon them, and none of them can accept, like, they know everything, they have to control everything. No one can, anytime someone tries to give them advice or tell them what to do, they
yeah,
see it as, you're in my
criticism.
business, you're trying to control me, you're trying to do this,
Yeah.
that, I can do it all on my own.
Yep.
So that wasn't, I just wanted to hop on that pony really quick because it's interesting that you said that. I don't know that we've ever talked about that on another episode, but that's exactly what it is. They don't
Mm,
want, they can't be told anything by anybody.
nope.
Even, and it doesn't matter how it's being delivered, how peaceful it's being delivered, how respectfully it's being delivered, they will not receive it.
No, not from their parents, not from the police. They don't care. They don't care about the
They
police.
don't.
They don't. Okay, so
Whew.
I don't know how long went by after that. I couldn't tell you exactly how long. It could have
Mm,
been 2 months, maybe. We had an argument. I called him gay boy, and he chased me around the house, and I hid under a duvet, and that's when he punched me like this under the duvet, and he gave me a black eye. And I was like, excellent, I'm going to the police. So I went to the police station and I said, um, I have this person living in my house. He's not paying rent. He's not on the lease. How can I remove him or get him removed? And then I was wearing sunglasses, right? Because I'd been crying. And so this stage he hadn't seen the black eye. And he started asking me questions, so I started crying, right? Because then I was just like, I just broke down to tears. And then I showed him my black eye, and he decided to place the domestic violence order right there and then against him. So it wasn't my decision then. He said to me, okay, now that you've shown me, it wasn't only because I had a black eye, but I had proof that something was happening. He said that by law had to put the domestic violence order against him, against the devil, because I had come in with signs of abuse, obviously. I do know that now coercive control and things like an emotional manipulation is something that can be held against them in court, but this was a couple of years ago, so I don't really know. I didn't know then that I could just go to the police and they would help me. I thought I had to have a black eye, or because throughout the whole relationship he would punch holes in walls, he would break my phone, he would snap my laptop, he would do things to other things, but he was never physical against me. He would come up to me like this and he'd do things like and try and scare me. He'd like do like that and then laugh and be like, oh, he would do things like that, but there was never anything. When you're not being physically punched in the face, you don't believe that it's abuse, because
Facts.
I didn't know it was possible, right?
Listen, please let me listen. Because all of that is happening. And like you said, it's the one, they're threats, they're scare tactics. And anyone that you're in a relationship with who uses scare tactics or fear tactics to manipulate or control or get you to behave a certain way, that is abuse. Just because they're not touching you. And if they're not touching you and they're punching holes in walls and they're breaking all of these things and they're doing whatever, they're going to touch you eventually.
Yep.
If you
Yep.
stay and give them enough time, that the anger that's being directed towards the inanimate objects is going to come right to you. And you never know. I will say this though, because you said I didn't go because I wasn't sure that I could use the manipulation and the coercion as proof of something happening and they could do something about it. In all the conversations that I'm having, usually they don't. Because what proof do you have besides me saying he's doing this and then he comes in and saying I'm not doing that? You have no proof. Even with coming in with a black eye, I just want to shout out to whoever that police officer was. Kudos to you for doing what you're supposed to do, listening to her story, believing her story, seeing
I
the
was really
evidence,
lucky.
and then like not even asking any questions, but bam, stamping this down like it needs to be stamped, because people will come even with physical evidence and they'll be like, well, he was living with you, or well, just let him go somewhere else and sleep it off. Like they wouldn't actually take any legal action. So shout out to that police officer. I just wanted to give him props for that. But yes, that is abuse, to try to manipulate and control through fear and scare tactics and getting in your face and all of those things. How you feel, your body is telling you you're being abused. But we don't believe it because, like you said, well, I don't have any scars. I don't have any bruises, nothing broken. This is just how he gets when he's angry. That
Yep.
is not your responsibility or your burden to bear.
I discovered something else the other day as well, because I have recordings on my phone that I use on my TikTok to spread awareness to other people, to other women about this. And I have a recording of something that jogged my memory that I totally forgot that this would happen. We would, I would want him to get a job, right? And I would beg him to get a job. And the only reason I wanted him to get a job is because I couldn't see a future with him unless he had a job. Because, hello, I can't see a future with someone who doesn't have any money. That's, of course, he would use the, oh, you just want me for my money. Mate, you have no money.
You
Okay. But what he would do is he would go out and he would get a job because this is how good he was. He could get any job in the world because he was so good at manipulating. He'd go out, he'd go to the interview, he'd get the job, right? He'd work for 2 or 3 days and then he'd be like, nah, I don't like it. I'm not going back. I can't be bothered to go today. I'm not going. And he just wouldn't go. You know, like a normal person would be a normal person, the example is me. If I had a job and I wanted to leave, I would hand in my notice. I'd feel really bad. Whereas he just wouldn't go. He'd block the number of the boss and just not go. That was him not going to work or quitting a job. Just block them or not answer the phone and just not go. That's how much he didn't care. What would happen is he'd get a job, he'd go to work, he'd quit after a few days, and then I would go ballistic. I'd get really mad, obviously, hello, obviously. So I would break up with him. I'd be like, right, that's it. I don't want to be with you anymore. I can't do this anymore. But of course he wouldn't leave, right? Because he wouldn't leave. So he would download dating apps and he would go on dates while I was at work. Yeah. So I
And for
would
anyone
clean.
who's confused right now, we're going back in the story just a little bit. This
Yes.
isn't after her police visit. This is prior to that, prior to him leaving to go with his sugar daddy and all of those things. But this is something that she remembered that would happen for the sake of anyone who is in a situation like all of these things are abusive. All of
Manipulation.
these,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. So I would ask him to get a job. He'd get a job, then he'd quit. Then because he quit, I would get angry and I'd break up with him and decide I didn't want to be with him anymore. But he wouldn't move out. So because I broke up with him, he'd go on Tinder. I was like, well, we're not in a relationship, so I'm gonna go on dates. So he'd download a dating app. I'd get home from work and he wouldn't be at home. And I'd be like, where are you? And he'd be like, oh, I'm on a date. That's what he would do. So that's another reason why I would never break up with him then, because I was scared of him doing that. Do you understand? I think it makes sense for somebody who's outside the relationship, like me. I can now understand that because my my self-worth depended on whether he accepted me or not. So for him to go on dates while I was at work, that was something that I was terrified of because it felt like after all this time that I'd tried
Mhm.
to fix him and help him and beg him to love me, he could just easily just leave me like that and just go with someone else. And that was my self-worth was in his hands for the whole of the relationship. So that's another reason why I would then not do things. I can't break up with him because he'll go on dates. I can't break up with him because he won't move out. I can't break up with him because 10 other different reasons.
Mhm.
So that was another way of, manipulating me into not breaking up with him, which meant not telling him my needs, which meant, you know, giving up my life for him because I was scared of what he would do. And it was never physical. I wasn't,
Mhm.
I, this is going to sound really bad, but I probably would have preferred for him to kick my head in. Maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't put that in. Maybe don't put that in the
No, let
video.
me say no, we're
But
gonna leave that in there because you're not the only person
who said that?
who's yeah, expressed that simply because of the fact that the mental and emotional part of abuse is so physically exhausting. And then I'm
Yes.
so glad that you said I would stay because my self-worth was attached to his approval of me. People don't
Yeah.
understand why people stay. And there,
Hmm.
like you said, there's so many reasons why we stay. And one of the reasons is because we don't understand our value yet. Like we don't have the concept of I'm independently valuable enough. I don't need anyone else's approval or validation for me to exist in all of the
Yeah.
glory that I am. And so for you to be afraid to break up with him because you still wanted him to pick you. Like, you're still in the please pick me era. I'm trying to do everything I can that's gonna be satisfying to you. I'm accepting the things that I shouldn't accept in the hopes that you would pick me because I don't see my own value yet. So thank
Yep.
you for saying that. And to yes, what you also just said, it is important to know people who both who have and have not been physically abused, but in abusive relationships have the same feeling for the most part, in the sense of, if you do something to me physically, most of the time it's going to heal. Now, setting me on fire, shooting me, cutting, like certain things, we get like, you're left
Yeah.
with
I'm
real bad
lucky to
scars.
be alive, and I don't disrespect anybody who's lost their life through domestic violence because
Mm-hmm.
they were in a
Mm-hmm.
physically, you know, they were physically hurt or
Yeah.
killed. I don't want to take that away from anybody. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're fine. That's the truth. And thank you for sharing that too, because none of this is about comparing our trauma. None of
Mm,
this is about comparing how bad I had it versus you, or how bad she had it versus me, or anything. Everybody experienced trauma that they shouldn't have experienced for
yeah,
however long. And it's not uncommon that people are like, I would prefer to be punched because at least the bruise is going to go away. But the physical, I mean, the emotional and the mental manipulation and abusive tactics, is, you hate like, you
it
still
gives you
want
brain damage.
somebody, but you hate the feeling of wanting this person, because it's
Yeah,
like, why do I want someone toxic? But I still, it's like, just pick, like, what, you're toxic. Why am I not good enough for you? And you're toxic is kind of like the mindset, right? And
yeah,
so it's important that we understand that's one of the reasons why people stay, is because I have tied my self-worth to someone else's approval or validation of me that never deserved to have that power in the first place.
yep, yeah. So it gives you brain damage. I literally have PTSD, CPTSD. I have I've been away from him fully, no contact, a year and a half. And I'm only just now starting to heal,
Mhm.
noticing things, patterns in my life where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's different to how I used to think. You know,
Yeah.
things like um, my brain would make up fake scenarios of car crashes or someone
Mm.
falling over and hurting themselves because my body and my brain were so used to constant trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? My brain would make up fake scenarios to prepare for the pain that was coming because my body and my brain didn't know yet that I was no longer with him.
Yeah.
So although again, I'm not taking away any woman who's lost their life to physical domestic violence, but the emotional abuse does give you brain damage. Like I have a tick in my eye that is there
Mm-hmm.
24/7, and it's energy trying to it's cortisol trying to
Mm-hmm.
get out of my body. I gained 10 kilos after I left him. My body was broken. My
Mm-hmm.
stomach's broken. My hair's falling out. It's just absolutely crazy the what emotional abuse does to you. The things he did like that, going on dates while I was at work. I was trapped basically.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I can maybe go through that a bit later if you want at the end and talk about if you want me to talk about that the health concerns that I've then faced after leaving him.
Mm-hmm.
While I was in the relationship, my health was fine.
Mm.
But when I
Mm.
left him, as soon as I left him and my body felt a bit of stability, everything I had a nervous breakdown, my hair was falling out, I had loads of different problems. So if you want me to talk about that, I will. But if you want me to obviously continue with the story through the police part, I can go from there. But yeah, brain
We can
damage
stay
is
right here, because, and we'll get back to the police story later, but it's so interesting what you just said, that your body was quote unquote fine during the relationship, and then when you left or finally separated from that person, It's almost like your body was going through a withdrawal shock.
Mm.
That's
I was living on adrenaline.
bananas.
My body was living on adrenaline, and I believe that everybody is living on adrenaline. Nobody's actually living in their normal human state of how they should live. Like
Mm-hmm.
our bodies should be functioning properly. This is everybody now. This is not just domestic violence survivors. But
Yeah.
I was fine when I was with him. I was a tiny bit lactose intolerant. That was it. And then as soon as I left him, I I had a miscarriage. This is part of the story as well. Part of the reason why my body changed was also because I had a miscarriage
Wait a
before I
second.
met him.
Wait. So after he came back, y'all were still intimate.
This is after the police.
Dang.
Yeah. Okay, let's carry on with the police,
Let's
and then when I get to the miscarriage, I can tell you
yes.
about the body part.
Yes.
What happened to the body
Please.
after.
Let's do it that way. God
Yeah.
dog, Natalie, you throwing dog it.
Yeah, I know.
Wasn't ready for that one. I was
Yeah.
not prepared for that one.
So I went to
Lord
the
have mercy.
police. The police came back to our house. They knocked on the door and he ran away. They chased him.
Did you have a
Um,
back door?
no, he jumped off the balcony. He jumped off the balcony and he ran away. And they couldn't find him.
What?
And the police came. I came back to the house with the police to get him. He jumped off the balcony, ran away, and then they caught him. And then they took him. I can't remember. I can't remember 100%. They took him to the police station,
Mm-hmm.
and he slept in the police station overnight because he'd run away, not because I'd. They just came to serve him papers to say that there was a domestic violence order in place and that he had to leave the property.
Mm-hmm.
But because he ran away, they took him to the police station.
So he wasn't going to get arrested initially. He was just going to get some papers saying you have to leave.
Yeah.
Even though
Uh,
you have physical proof that he assaulted you.
yeah.
Here's
Because
what, go ahead.
he had a court hearing the next day, right? So they issued the domestic violence order. I think so. Or maybe they came to arrest him. I can't really remember. I do know that he had a court date, and he I can't really remember what happened exactly. I think they brought me back to the house,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't there. He jumped out of the balcony, escaped. I don't know if they'd come to arrest him or if they'd come to serve him the papers. I don't know.
Okay.
But he ran away, and I do know that they caught him and they took him, and he slept in the police station overnight. The next
Mm-hmm.
morning, he called me from the police station and said, "I'm coming home." And I said, "No, you're not allowed to come home. There is a domestic violence order against you. You're not allowed to come near me. You're not allowed to come here to the house. And if they catch you at the house, you will go to prison." Literally. So he said, "I'm coming home to get my stuff, and then I'm going to go to my parents' house." I was like, "Okay, fine." And then the police station is a train ride from where we live. So it could have taken him 20 minutes to get home. So 2 hours go by, and I'm like, "Where is he? Why isn't he come home?" Because they've let him out of the police station. Oh, he called me from a phone box, right? So that's how I knew that he was outside of the police station.
Mm-hmm.
He called me from a phone box. He said he was coming to get his stuff and then going to his parents. He took 2 hours to get home. I'm like, "Where the hell is he?" He gets to the house, and I go, "Where have you been?" And he said, "Oh, I went to the massage parlor." So he'd gone out of prison. He got out of prison, and he'd punished me by going to the massage parlor and having a happy ending because I called the police. That's what he said to me. Yeah. So he came to the house, and he wasn't leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm crying my eyes out now. I was just like, I was, for the 10th time, I was exhausted. I called his mum. His mum came round. I said, take him away from here, because if the police come, I was just like, I'm just going to call the police. If you don't take him away, I am going to call the police. They're going to come and he's going to get arrested and he's going to go to prison. He got a knife and he cut his arm. And he's,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Wait a second, because before you said that, I want to share with people that like we could easily call the police and they could face the consequences of their actions.
Yeah.
But because we have this, like, we still care about the person.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be mean or cruel. It's like, I'm saving you from what you deserve. Mercy, right? I'm giving you mercy, saving you from what you deserve, and hoping somebody else can help you do whatever you're doing, like get better, but not here with me. Which is why you don't call the police. It's like, because you know the consequences, but you still don't want him to be arrested, even though he's doing something that he's not supposed to do. You're still considering his life and how his life will be impacted in a negative way if you take the right steps. And when you're in that situation and you have this trauma bond and you're emotionally connected to someone who, like, all of the things that tie you to that person, you still don't want to inflict intentional harm because you're not that person. So you don't want to inflict intentional harm or even make them face what they deserve to face, which is the consequences of their own actions. Because somebody's going to be sitting here like, why would she call their mom when the police have already showed up? All she has to do is call the police and they'll come back and get them. We don't really want them to have to go to jail. Even though we
No.
should want them to have to go to jail, because we just shouldn't want them out because they're just going to do it to somebody else. But I just wanted to sit there because somebody needs to know why you didn't call the police. And I had a strong feeling that that was why.
Yeah. It's the
So
trauma. It's the trauma bond the whole time.
his mom shows up. He gets a knife and he cuts himself.
Yep. He cuts his arm and he says, if you call the police, I'll cut my arm again. I'm not going back to prison.
Does he cut himself in a way that he's bleeding a lot to where...
Um, he probably needed stitches but didn't get stitches. So it was a steak knife. It wasn't like,
Oh my God.
yeah. It wasn't his
Serrated
wrist.
edges.
It was like near his elbow, like here. That's my elbow. You can't see it, but it was like there.
Mm-hmm.
So he cuts his arm and says, if you call the police, I'll cut my arm. So his mum's going crazy, right?
Right.
This poor woman is going crazy. Well, crazy, I wouldn't say. At this stage, his mum was telling me that having a happy ending wasn't cheating. So
you shared that with her. You're like, hey, he's supposed to come get his stuff. He didn't. He went to the massage parlor, got all these
yeah,
things.
of course.
And she's like, well, that's not cheating, dear.
Yeah.
Which makes me curious, like, what the heck she putting up with at home?
Well, his dad was a drunk, and that's another story for another sad story for another day. I just need to put my iPad on charge. 1 second. So
Blessed assurance.
she later told me that she knows that that's cheating, and the only reason she said that is to take his side so that he wouldn't harm himself. That's all, basically. Um,
Gracious.
but yeah, she had no control over him. She had no control.
Right.
She was
Oh
just
my.
like a little mouse. The poor woman. Um, just let me make sure it's charging. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. So he's not leaving. I'm not leaving. I can't go back to my dad's house. This was him.
So she
After
comes and he doesn't leave?
no.
He cuts himself. He's bleeding all over your house.
Yep.
She's in panic now because her son is doing self-harm in front of her.
Yep.
So how does does she just like say, well, dear, I can't take this anymore, so I'm just like, how does she end up leaving without him?
He wasn't going to go with her. So she just left. She just left. Um, by this time, he'd convinced me that he was sorry and whatever, and that he wasn't going to do it again, and that whatever it is, he'd convinced me this time. And we go to sleep, right? We go to sleep, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, I get a knock at the door, and I go and answer it, and it's the police. And they came back to see if he'd come back because they said that 90% of abusers come back to the house, and he had. So they cuffed him and they took him to prison. And he had to stay in prison until his court date. Oh, because he had a court. What happened was they took him to prison overnight, and then that's next day he has the court hearing where the judge sentences him to how long he's going to go to prison for. Right, okay, so that now I remember how it happens. I went to the police, he put the domestic violence order over, he went to serve him the papers. The next day was his court date for them to decide how long he was going to go in prison for. He didn't go, he ran away, so they took him to prison overnight, and then he didn't show up for court, right? So they turned up to our house in the middle of the night to see if he'd come back, which he had, so they took him to prison, and he had to stay in prison until his court date, which was a month later.
I was about to give them kudos for following up on the case, but it wasn't because of the abuse. It was because he didn't show up for court.
Yeah. So they took him to prison,
Dang.
and he had to stay in prison for a month until his next court date.
Uh-huh.
But what had happened is, because between him cutting his arm, his mum leaving, and him apologizing, he convinced me again that this was my fault. So by the time the police came and took him away again, he was saying, "I love you," whatever. "I love you." So when they took him away to prison again, I thought that it was my fault that he was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent thousands of dollars to get a lawyer to try and get him out of prison.
No.
Yep. Yep. And um, so Christmas goes by, New Year goes by, because this was over Christmas. And he gets out of prison, and um, by this time, I was living by myself, and I couldn't pay my rent by myself. So when he got out of prison, he said that I could go live with him and his parents. So I did. Because I had the domestic violence order, I was able to break the lease for my property. And when I went to the real estate with the domestic violence order, there was damage to the property. There was a hole in the door. There was coffee stains on the ceiling. And by law, they have to give you your bond back, and they can't take away the bond if it's domestic violence. But the real estate, who was a woman, disputed, saying that it wasn't from domestic violence. So that's another story of somebody not believing you.
Mm-hmm.
She disputed that, made it difficult for me to be able to leave. I couldn't really pay the rent by myself by that stage. And then I went to stay with them, with his
Why
family.
didn't you go stay with some of your friends? Because you still have friends around, right?
No, I didn't really have any friends, to be honest. I had one friend, but I couldn't really stay with her. Um, so I stayed with his parents. And then I think I stayed with his parents for like 2 months maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got pregnant. I got a new job. I quit the job that I had because it wasn't paying me enough. They'd reduced my hours, and that's why I couldn't pay my rent. They'd reduced my hours, so I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
pay my rent. So I had to give up the house, and then I had nowhere to go. And then his mum said that I could come and stay with him. His mum loved me. His mum loved me. We got on really well, apart from her, you know, justifying his poor behavior and giving him money whenever he wanted it. Um, I went to stay with them, and I got a new job. It turned out the job was not, they'd tried to scam me with this job, pay me less than what they should. Everything
Mm-hmm.
was going wrong. Well, everything went wrong from day one, but right in this moment, everything was going wrong for me specifically. Then I fell pregnant, um, and I decided I wanted to keep the baby.
Hold on a second, Nat, because
Yeah,
you went from not wanting him in your house to him going away to prison for a whole month, so he misses Christmas and New Year's, to now you're not like when he goes away, you say before he leaves, he convinces you that he's sorry, he still loves you, and you fall for it. So when he comes back, he doesn't show any anger or resentment towards you for him going to prison. He doesn't blame you this time.
no,
And you're holding on to what his last words to you weren't mean. It was, I still love you. I'm sorry, I'm going to do better. He goes to jail, he comes back out. You think that that's going to change some things in him. And you're like, okay. So you give him another opportunity. Are y'all now, when you're living with his parents, back in a relationship? Or y'all kind of just
yeah,
roommates that are having sex? You're
back in a
back in a
relationship.
relationship.
Yeah.
He's
And to
still
be,
not working.
no.
He's still not working. You're trying to find a job
Yep.
and y'all are living at his parents' house.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And to be honest, when he got out of prison, he had changed a bit. Had changed. He was a bit more. Um, he had kind of realized what he'd done for 5 minutes, maybe or 10 minutes. Um, and then I fell pregnant. I decided that I wanted to keep the baby. Then I got really depressed, suicidally depressed, where I would dream about because there was a river next to his house where we would take the dog for a walk. I would have dreams about walking into this river and drowning and never coming out. And then when I was awake, I would daydream about walking into this river and never coming out. Like before this specific event, this is like the lowest part of depression of my life. And I've been depressed since then through the
Mm-hmm.
healing journey as well. But that was just like, now I understand when somebody said to me the other day, when you're feeling depressed, you just need to, be grateful for the things that you had. And I was like, that person who told you to just be grateful for the things that you have has never been suicidal before because it's not an option. Your brain doesn't work like that. It's just, for me, it was this video playing on repeat. It was almost like not, I wouldn't say like a sign from God, but it was like I was being told by whatever it is that I needed to end my life. That's the only way that I can explain it. When I was awake, I would daydream about the river, and when I was asleep, I would dream about the river. All I would think about all day and all night was killing myself and taking my own life. So that's when I understood that people who take their own life and then you say, oh, how selfish of them, they didn't think of their parents. You don't think of anybody because you can't, because the only thing in your head is relief from the thoughts. That's all that you want when that is happening. It was really scary. It was really, really scary. And he would say to me, think about your niece and nephew. They'd be so sad if something happened to you. And it's just, I was thinking, if anybody on this planet could understand right now how I'm feeling, they would say to me, I give you permission to leave this planet because of how I understand how bad you feel. Does that make sense? That's how I
Yes.
would, that's how I was justifying that to myself in my head. If my family knew how bad I felt, that they would understand that I didn't want, I could not physically be here because of how much my own brain was torturing me. It was so bad, so bad. So now I have more understanding for people who have taken their own life, and then other people come in and say, "Oh well, that's so selfish. You didn't think of how your mum's really upset now, and you just don't. You can't physically have any empathy for other people and how they're going to feel and think when you're not here because your
You
brain
can't
won't physically
even,
let you."
yeah.
It's crazy. It was
No
really,
other
really
thoughts are
scary.
allowed. Wow.
Mm. And it was the hormones, it was the trauma, and it was being in a situation where I was by myself. Obviously, I was living in the house with his parents and him, but that didn't that didn't really mean anything to me because they weren't helping me with anything. So why would
Hmm.
they? I didn't have support. Um, it was really, really scary. And for anybody who's ever felt like that, or anybody who's going through, when I say going through depression, you might think, oh, you just feel sad. Like I feel a bit sad today. But that was a proper chemical imbalance in my brain. I knew it was. And I knew that it was just day and night, whether I was asleep or awake, it was the same thought pattern in my head. It was walking into the river, and it wasn't even me physically drowning. It was just me walking into the river and not coming out. That's all I could think about. And it was the hormones, and it was the hormones, and it was the trauma, and it was the thought of me being in that situation with the baby in my body and being by myself. It was
So
literally
what advice, if any, could you give to someone who's in that suicidal loop of depression, and your mind doesn't have the capacity to think outside of those thoughts? Is there anything outside of, helping them with supposed drugs that are supposed to help you when you're feeling depressed like
balanced
that?
chemicals.
Like, what could you say that could help someone find a way to come out of there?
To be honest, there is absolutely nothing that there's nothing. I would recommend finding support from a helpline that knows what you're going through, because your mum and dad are just going to tell you to, no offense, but they don't understand. They're not going to
Right.
understand this.
We don't.
Your doctor, your GP is not going to understand. Your family's not going to understand. Your friends are not going to understand because they just don't understand. It's your brain is different. My brain then, in that moment, in that time of my life, was different to how it is now. The chemical imbalance in my brain was different. So nobody can understand what that feels like. You can't just, oh, I'm grateful for the trees and the sky. No, that's not going to work. So if anybody is ever going through that, you really need to call a helpline, because that's the only thing I can tell you, because going to somebody and asking for help that doesn't understand will make it worse. They will make you feel more isolated and more lonely.
Mm,
And there's nothing that
we
anybody
don't
could
understand.
have told me.
We
There's
don't
nothing
understand.
anybody could have told me in that moment that would have made it feel better. My partner, the devil, he was saying, and this was actually around the time when I was pregnant, was the time when he was most supportive to me and close. That's
Wow.
I felt more close to him then. I felt like after prison, he opened up to me. That's what I felt then. Because I think that he was obviously being more vulnerable because I was then living with his parents then. So that was him being more vulnerable anyway, because he'd let me into the environment that had caused his narcissism, because that's where it's created, in his family
Hmm.
environment. So whether he liked it or not, he was opening up to me and being more vulnerable just by letting me be in his house with his parents, right?
Right.
And I would say to him, I don't feel well. And he would say, where? In your head or in your stomach? Because he would tell me that, he was going through depression and he felt like that, but he'd never ever spoke to me about feeling like how I was feeling right then. Um, so yeah, I don't really know what advice I could give someone who's going through that, um, other than seeking advice from somebody who knows what they're talking about,
Yeah.
because your friends and family won't understand and they don't know how to deal with that. It was
You
very
explained
scary.
that. Let me just say, you explained that in a way that I've never heard it explained before. And I
Mm,
think that that's going to help a lot of people who've never been there before have a better understanding of why people actually go through with it. Because
yep,
you're right. If you've never been on that level of depression, you're disconnected from what's really happening.
yep,
And you just made it very clear. It's like your mind is on one track and it can't get off.
yep,
And you are now becoming physically exhausted from just being on this one track. And you're trying, like your body's moving through space and time, a- and you're a shell of yourself, but then you're still trying to, in certain incidences, you're still trying to tap dance and do the song and dance for everybody else
yep.
that we say you're not thinking about while you're battling this never ending loop of torture. Wow.
Mm.
That was very well painted for anyone who needed and never understood. Because that was me,
I
I
didn't
never
understand.
understood.
I didn't understand. I just thought, oh, if you feel depressed, then you just need to get better lifestyle, go for a
Yeah,
walk. You know,
yeah,
what is it that they recommend these days if you're depressed? Go get some sunlight, go for a walk. Are you
yeah.
eating properly? Are you exercising? Exercising? You
Affirmations bring more joy, do things you enjoy.
exercising? Crazy. It's crazy, and it's a physical imbalance of chemicals in your brain that tell you to kill yourself. That is the only thing that I can explain what it is, whether it's a demon or it's God or I don't know what it is. I know that it's a chemical imbalance because I was pregnant and it was hormonal. It was trauma and it was hormonal and there was a chemical imbalance there that was not, you know, my body wasn't functioning at 100% capacity like it should
Hmm.
for a human, and I was going through a lot of things, the emotional torture that I'd been through, the hormones, and my body wasn't functioning properly. I understand that, but that's the only way I could explain it. It was a chemical imbalance in my brain that was telling me to kill myself. That's that's the only way that I can explain it.
My goodness.
Mm,
So now he's being, ironically, because in most abusive situations, and perhaps this is just ones that are mostly physical, but he's been physical with you at this point. When the woman becomes pregnant, the physical abuse either starts or it escalates. But in your case, he actually became more supportive for the
mm.
time being.
I would say now looking back that when he opened up to me and became more supportive and close to me was when I moved into his parents' house. So
Hmm.
it was almost like because he was already being vulnerable by I knew his parents before this, right? I already knew his parents. We'd spend Christmas with his parents, so I'd been to his house and I knew his family. That was already established. But him bringing me into the environment that caused him so
Hmm.
much pain, where he would fight with his dad, because the dynamic he had with his dad is that his mum was a little mouse and his dad liked to drink, and
Hmm.
um I wouldn't say he was physically aggressive, but I would say that he talked down
Hmm.
to the mother. I saw that dynamic when I was in the house. So he'd grown up in an environment where his dad had pushed a lot of um, performance onto him and expectation, and at the same time his dad was going through his own shit in his own life. Now that I look back and I understand generational trauma, which is what I'm studying now to heal myself, I can see from the outside now that he brought me into the environment that had caused him so much pain. So he was almost being more vulnerable to me then
Hmm.
by opening up and bringing me into the space that had caused him pain, I think. So him bringing me to his parents' house and living there, he did start to, I would say, open up. It's where I felt the closest to the
Yeah.
core of him, because that's kind of how it works with narcissism. You have the empath, which is me, and the narcissist, which is him, and all I'm trying to do is to reach his heart and grab his heart and hug him,
Yeah.
because that's what we're trying to do. We see his pain,
Mm-hmm.
we see how much, we think that they just need love,
Oh my
and that's not
gosh.
the answer.
It's
So
not.
it was almost like me moving into his parents was him opening up and being more vulnerable. There were stages of narcissism I do remember while living in his house where,
Mm-hmm.
um, again, this is where I started my last business that I had before the business I have now, where I was um, doing marketing. So I always had a side hustle going. I always had some sort of side hustle going.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I would focus more on that and focus less on him, he would get kind of, he would cause arguments and things like
Yeah.
that. But that was the least of my worries. I knew
Right.
to handle that. Um, but yeah, the depressive episode, going back to that, um, was really scary, I would say. And now I understand when people say, oh, if you feel depressed, you need to focus on gratitude. And
Mm-hmm.
like, you have no idea what you're talking about. If you think that gratitude is going to pull you out of a depressive episode, good luck with that, because it's not going
Yeah.
to work. It can pull you out of an episode where you feel sad or, depressed
Mm-hmm.
if you like, but there's a difference between depressed and suicidal. I was suicidal, which is
Yeah.
worse. Um, so yeah, I would say that when he became more vulnerable when I moved into his parents' house, and he opened up the door a tiny bit more,
Right. Right.
Uh, and then when I fell pregnant, he, said, it's up to you whether you keep the baby or not. I did want to keep the baby. And then I got really depressed. And he was supportive. Like, I would wake up in the middle of the night from these terrible dreams, crying, sobbing and sobbing and crying and crying. And he'd say, what's wrong? And I'd try and explain. He was kind of, I would say he was supportive with the depression, because I feel like he felt like he could relate to that. Probably not the suicidal part, but the
Mm-hmm.
part where I would imagine having the brain of a narcissist, where you're constantly going in circles with control, losing control, not
Mm-hmm.
being able to self assess or be self aware, blaming other people, control, losing control. They're just constantly like, if you'd have to be depressed. Narcissists have to be depressed, because I can't explain it. So I
Right.
think that when I opened up to him with that, he felt like he could relate in some way to me, because he knew how I felt, maybe not the
Mm-hmm.
suicidal bit, because I know that I do believe that narcissists are too cowardly to take their own lives. I don't believe that they would do that. Um,
I
but
don't
yeah,
even know if it's cowardly or if it's pride, but
yeah,
it's definitely it could be both. But it's definitely their sometimes it's their weapon,
mm,
because in a lot of cases they'll threaten to end their lives because they know that the person that's trying to leave isn't going to let them do that, so that's how they draw them back in.
yeah,
And in any case, when that happens, I always tell people, hey, you don't have to be the one that goes back. You call 911. Hey, I just want to do a wellness check on so and so. They're there, and they can take it from there, because
mm,
you're going to take the blame, and you're really going to think that they can go through with it, which they're not going to go through with it. But because you don't know, all you're thinking about at this point is, if he goes through with it, then I could have stopped him, and now I'm carrying this body on me for the rest of my life, and it's not going to happen. But I just wanted to stop right there for anyone who is or has been or might find themselves in that situation. It's not your responsibility to go back.
no,
They're trying to pull you back in. Just do a wellness check on them and stay gone.
yeah. So after the pregnancy, I got very depressed, like I said. Um, he didn't come to any of the appointments with me. Now that I look back at that, he never came to the doctors with me, or narcissists. I know I've seen patterns with other people now that They don't come to the doctors. He didn't come to any of the scans or anything like that. The only time that the suicidal thoughts stopped was when I lost the baby. So at
Wow.
12 weeks, I think it was 12 or 13 weeks, I'd already had the scan. I went by myself and I was asleep in bed one night and I got this terrible, terrible pain. And I went to the toilet, and trigger warning for anybody who does not want to listen to this part, but I felt the baby fall out of me
Oh
into
my
the toilet.
goodness.
Yes. And I just sat on the toilet and I cried. I was by myself. Everyone was asleep. Um, and I've only just, that's part of my PTSD that stays, because when I used to think about that, I would remember, I could feel the feeling of that release. And now I've done memory. I've done EMDR on a few things, and that was one of the things that I was able to stop. The memory was not able to, it doesn't trigger me anymore. I can talk more about that later if you want. When I finish my story, I'll tell you about the tools that I'm including in the app that I'm building to help women heal from domestic violence. One of those things is the tool that I use to help me with PTSD and stop the memory triggering me. When I would think about that moment, I would remember the feeling. I could physically feel the feeling, and now I can't feel that anymore. But I'll go more into that detail later. So I got off the toilet. I put a sanitary towel on. I was bleeding a lot, obviously. And it's, I didn't know this, but what actually happens is you start to get contractions as if you were having the baby. So I was in lots and lots of pain. So I went back into the room and he woke up and he was there with me. And I was just having contractions for hours after that. I took painkillers. And then the next day I went to the doctors and they did a scan and everything had come out then. So I just obviously they checked to see if you're going to get an infection or anything like that. So I just had blood clots that needed to come through. So then I was just on my period then after that. And I remember that the next day after it had happened, the suicidal thoughts and the depression just lifted. It was almost like, I don't know. It was very strange. It wasn't like I was happy and I was skipping around. I'd just lost a baby. I was really upset, but I wasn't getting the dreams anymore and the thoughts of the river all the time. So that was very interesting. So yeah, I lost the baby. I went to I went to the doctors. They checked up. I just ended up having like a period after that, and then we were good for a few days, and then this job that I had, they'd scammed me because they were paying me less than they should have, and it was just a headache. So I quit the job, and then we started arguing a lot again, and I had my suitcase. I had a car at this stage, so I would pack my bags, put my stuff in my car, and I'd leave. And then he'd call me, and then I'd go back. And then that happened loads of times. And what ended up happening is that I would just leave my suitcase packed at the side of the door, because I knew that there was one day I was going to leave very soon and I wasn't going to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I remember that because I'd built this little side hustle where I was doing marketing and building websites and building brands for random people on the internet. I didn't have a laptop or anything, so I would use his iPad, which is this iPad. The iPad that I'm using is his. Because he snapped my laptop in half. The laptop I had, he snapped it in half. So what would happen is we'd have an argument. I'd get in the car. I'd drive away. I'd decide not to go back. I'd block him. He'd come and find me. He'd take me back. And then one of the times that I left, which was the time that I decided that I wasn't going back, I decided that I needed the iPad because I needed to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back. I went back and I pretended that everything was okay. And I got the iPad and I left. I left and I blocked him. And I lived in my car
Mm.
for a week because I had um, I did massage then, not happy ending massage, normal massage with normal people. I had one client left that I would see on a weekend, her and her husband, and I had her booked in for the Saturday. And I lived in my car for a week. I'd quit that job where they were scamming me, and I needed the last bit of money from this massage and this couple massage that I had. And then I booked a flight to come back to my parents' house, which is here. So I lived in my car for a week. And I remember the thing that saved me, right? The thing that triggered me, the first thing that pulled me out of the trauma bond was me being on TikTok and seeing a video about narcissistic behavior and me saying, what? That's him. And going down the rabbit hole. One of these times that I left where I got my suitcase and I went in my car, I would go lay on the beach, or I'd go next to the beach with my car. And because I was doing massage in the back, in the boot, I had quite a big car. I had the massage table laid out, and then I had cushions for the massage. So I was comfortable in this car. When I lived in there for a week, I was pretty comfortable. I was the happiest week of my life was me living in that car. And one of the times that I left, before the last time that I left, I saw a video about narcissistic abuse, and I went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, wow, this is abuse. Like, I knew at stages I was being emotionally abused, but I didn't know that I didn't know that he was a narcissist and that this was an actual thing, and that, everything that I'd been through, other people were going through, and that this wasn't love, and that he wasn't my soulmate. And it was from one specific video that I watched and me going down the rabbit hole. And that's why now I make videos about that, because I know that there's going to be a woman out there who's going to go through the same thing that I went through or worse. And she's going to see my videos, and hopefully, I know that you don't just see a video and you leave. That's not how it works at all. But the first step is realizing that it's abuse.
Yeah.
I think that the first step is realizing it's abuse, gathering information, gathering facts, and being able to actually acknowledge, right, that it's abuse.
Yeah.
The last time I left, I was laid on the bed and I was watching a documentary about what's this lady called, Nicole something, and she married a really old man who was dying, who had money.
Oh, Anna Nicole Smith.
That's it. I was watching the documentary about Anna Nicole Smith just because, why not? Thought that was an interesting story. And he came into the room and he said, you want to be like her? You just this, because this is what they do, right? They don't come in and they tell you to turn it off. They come in and they say, oh, blah, blah, you want to be like her. Why are you watching that? You become so that you will stop watching it. They don't say stop watching it. They do things so that you will stop watching it by yourself. That's how the manipulation works. I was like, oh, I'm so exhausted. This was it for me. I was like, I'm done. That was when I left, but I forgot the iPad. So I went back for the iPad.
Yeah.
And then, I blocked him and I lived in my car for a week, and then I came home.
And how has it been? So you blocked him. Did he not find any other way to contact you? Social media, WhatsApp, like?
He's emailed me. He's sent me WhatsApps. He's called me. I've never answered the phone or anything like that. Yeah, because I just knew that there was nothing I could do. There's absolutely nothing I can do anymore. And I've been no contact for a year and a half, and I've only just stopped feeling sorry for him. So for anybody out there who has maybe left them or is thinking of leave them, or it's a really, really, really long process. You don't just leave them and then you get on with your life. I felt, I wouldn't say guilty. I don't think I felt guilty at any stage. But I felt sorry for him, where I'd be like, oh, well, because it's almost like you're still inside the trauma.
Yep.
And once you're able to take a step back and see the trauma from the outside, like me telling you right
Girl.
now, you're like, what
Yes.
the was that? You know? Even now, me telling this story, it still doesn't feel like this is my story. It still doesn't feel like this happened to me.
Yes.
It still doesn't feel like this happened to me. However,
Yes. Like, what was I thinking? What wasn't I thinking? What was happening?
what was happening to me,
Yes.
And it's not even why did I not leave him? It's who the was that person in my life? You know?
How did I let myself become this?
Yeah.
How did I not see what I saw happening?
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm so glad you said the note. Like, that's in reality, that's the only way you're going to get healing and you're going to move on is the no contact,
Yeah.
because any kind of
100%.
contact allows them the opportunity to do everything that they did to you that got you and kept you there.
Manipulate you.
That is all it is. You can feel
Mm.
sorry for them from a distance, but as soon as you open the door thinking you got
Yeah.
control, like you moved on, you don't. Like, there's no reason for you to speak with them. If you have kids, that's a different story. And
I can't imagine.
I hate
I thank God that I lost that baby. This is going to sound really
listen.
horrible. And for
It
anybody out there
doesn't.
who can't have children, I'm really sorry, but I am so glad that I did not have that baby. I'm so
It
glad.
you I was thinking the same thing and didn't want to say it out of respect for your
Mm.
feelings, because I'm like, wow, that was. And I see now why you kept saying a sign from God. Before I was like, well, no, this isn't God. But I
Mm.
see why now that the full story is out about the pregnancy and you losing the baby, the energy and the spirit that was in the child that you were
Yeah.
carrying was so unhealthy.
Mm. Because again, this is something else that I've realized doing my digging now, trying to understand why, not why he's like this. I'm not doing that
Hmm.
anymore. I want to know why I attracted, kept, forgive, and chased this
Yeah.
person so long. Is that narcissistic people are born in unstable environments, right?
Hmm.
So me having a baby with him would have either created a woman who chases a narcissist, or a man who is a narcissist, or a woman who's a narcissist. I'm not saying all men are narcissists, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that the core problem that we have is people having
Yeah.
children in unstable relationships.
Yep.
That is what creates unstable people. That's the cycle that needs to end, you know?
Yep.
So
Yes. Wow. That is this. Oh my gosh.
I learned something. I've learned something recently that I've just started to share in my content, that um, a child is born. If a child is born in an emotionally unavailable environment,
Hmm.
there are two ways for them to survive. They either become an empath who chases the validation of their parents to feel protected and safe and accepted, or
Hmm.
they use control as a way to survive. So they control the narrative and they try to
Yeah.
control other people so that they don't get rejected.
Yep.
So from the same trauma, the same wound, you either become a narcissist or you become an empath who chases a narcissist.
Yes.
Crazy. That's crazy. And that is just from my upbringing. I have emotionally unavailable parents, right? I have a
Hmm.
traumatic experience that happened to me. I was sexually abused when I was
Hmm.
12 or 13. so that won't help either. But if you look at my family from the outside, you would think that we're a normal family. Like,
Right.
you know, we have money, we're not the Kardashians, but we had food,
Yeah.
we had clothes, my parents are not divorced. Like, from the outside, you wouldn't
Yeah.
think that I grew up in a traumatic environment, but it's what causes people pleasers, girls who chase unavailable men, and narcissists, basically. So it's terrifying to think that I'm scared to have children now because, because the smallest inconvenience creates patterns in people and children. It's really
Yeah.
scary. It's terrifying. I know too much now. I've learned too much about this now, and now I'm scared of everything.
No, but when you find yourself in a place where you truly understand your worth, your value, your standards shift,
Yeah.
and what you allow and don't allow, that changes. And
Mm,
it allows you to then be the person that you need to be in a healthy relationship, but also see the type of person that can be in a healthy relationship with you, so that y'all are now growing. It's a even because even people who get together at a young age and they stay married forever, in order for it to be a healthy relationship, is we both have to understand that we're both growing through phases, and we hope
mm,
both have to be willing to work on ourselves to be the best version of ourselves for ourselves and the other person that we choose to be in a relationship in. And a lot of times we're still selfish in the sense of, I'm not going to change myself for the better,
mm.
or think that there's any room for me to change because I'm already as good as I'm going to get. And if we go into a relationship knowing that that's not the case, but knowing that we always striving to be better, and we're in a relationship with someone who's always striving to be better, we're able to see the signs of the things that could have a negative impact on our kids or whatever we have together, and we go get counseling or therapy or help. Like, I believe that therapy and counseling should be a natural part of life.
Me
I
too.
believe that
Me too.
individually and with a couple, we shouldn't be going there because things are about to
There's a
hit the
problem.
fan or already hit the fan.
Mm,
We should have counsel, like healthy counsel navigating through this, because a lot of times we try to go to our parents who didn't have a healthy relationship, and the advice that you get advice from one unhealthy relationship, the other person gets advice from another unhealthy relationship. Now you got all of it. It's just a hot mess.
difficult.
A
It's
hot mess.
scary. It's scary, and also I learned something really interesting. When I first left him and I went to therapy, I I wanted to go because he's from Australia and I love Australia and I want to go back to Australia, right?
Mhm.
Not because I want to be with him, but because
Right.
I originally went there to live a life that I didn't get to live, right? So I feel
Mhm.
like I still have something pending there. Anyway, when I first went to therapy, I'd applied for my visa.
Mhm.
Um, this was after it wasn't. I didn't just come home and then want to go back. It was a bit of time after leaving him that I went to therapy, and I hadn't got my visa yet. And my therapist said to me, she was quite spiritual, which I think was a benefit for me then. She said to me, "You're not ready to go back. That's why you haven't got your visa yet." And I didn't understand what she meant. I didn't understand what that kind of meant when she said, "You're not ready to go back." Then I knew that I wasn't going to go back with him, but I still felt sorry for him, right?
Mhm.
So she said to me, "Although you don't believe what I'm going to say, if you go back there and you see him, there's still a chance that he will convince you to get back with him and you will get back with him." I was like, "No, no,
Yep.
I'm not going to do that." But it was a choice that I'd made. It wasn't imprinted in me that I was not going to go back with him, which is how I feel now,
Yeah.
right? So, something that I now see from the outside after thinking about the therapy that I've done, and when she
Mhm.
said that to me, is that the only way that I will make decisions when I get into a new relationship about how that person is because I'm able to say no, right? So
Hmm.
it's not about me now attracting a narcissist or not a narcissist. It's trusting myself enough to know when the minor inconvenience happens that I'm going to say no, this is not the person for me.
Yeah.
Where before I didn't see it like that. I saw it from a different perspective where I was like, oh, I'm so scared to date now. I'm not dating. Obviously, I don't want to date. I'm not ready for that. But what I'm saying is that when I do go back into dating, before I
Hmm.
saw it as, oh, I'm so scared, I'm going to attract a narcissist. Whereas now I understand that when someone says to me, how will I know when I'm ready to date? It's because you trust yourself
Mm.
enough that when something happens, the minor inconvenience, even if he's wearing a pair of shoes that you don't like, you're able to say, this
I
is not the
can't do
best,
this. Yeah.
you know? And I was
This
like,
isn't gonna work.
wow, that is incredible because it's actually choosing yourself over
Yes.
another person. So I
Yes.
thought that was really incredible that I'd kind of noticed that when she said to me, you're not ready. And it was because I still felt sorry for him. So the healing journey is long. The healing journey is
Yeah.
long. And
Yep.
it's not easy and it's not straightforward and it's crazy.
It
So yeah, would
is.
you like me to tell you about the app that I'm building?
Yes, go for it.
Have you got time?
We yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm building an app to help women escape domestic violence and also help them heal from abuse, right? Because I've been on such a healing journey where
Hmm.
when I left him and I'd had a miscarriage the month before, right? And I came home
Hmm.
to my family and I gained 10 kilos in 3 months. My hair was falling out. I had psoriasis all over my scalp, which I'm still clearing that up right now. You can see the red patches here on my head. I
Hmm.
had gut issues where um, I was just inflamed all the time. I had a nervous breakdown. My body shut down, right? And I went to the doctors and they did bloods. I had low vitamin D. I had kidney disease because I had low filtration of kidneys, but that was more from dehydration. Basically, the
Hmm.
doctors just said I was fine, right? I went to therapy and I was given tools to use to help me heal. But the reason I built the app is because I have had to heal by myself, basically. I've been to therapy, right? I go to therapy and I've got a great therapist. Um, but I believe that for you to heal as a whole, as a person, you need lots of different tools.
Hmm.
And most therapists that I've seen, and your GP, and whatever other support you've got, they only give you specific tools to use. Like you'll have one therapist that's specifically trained in narcissistic abuse. And then you'll have one therapist that's specifically trained and she does EMDR. And then you've got one therapist that does somatic healing. And then you've got another therapist. But I have found and realized from when I left him to where I am now that I've needed a bit of everything,
Hmm.
right? And the only reason I've realized that is through self-discovery, not because anybody's told me this. I've read all the books, I've watched all the podcasts, I've listened to all the YouTubes, I've done all of the research because I wanted to know why I started digging. And when I got to the root cause of everything, there was not one specific tool out there that existed that could help you through all of the stages of healing childhood trauma, which is what I'm going through now, which is what caused me to attract a narcissistic person in the first place. I didn't know that. That was self discovery. No therapist told me this.
Hmm.
Sorry, that's my cat. No therapist told me this. Healing my autoimmune disease. The doc GP didn't tell me that that was because of trauma.
Hmm.
I had to read a book about that, you know? Um, my hair falling out, my GP said to me, oh, that's just because you've got low iron, or it's because, you know, it's autumn and your hair's falling out. So all of these things that I've had to go through, there was no specific thing that could help me heal.
Right.
Wow. Can you hear my cat? Jesus Christ. Be quiet. I'm on TV. Go away. Steve. There was no tool that could help me escape, because when I was stuck in the relationship, my friends didn't know how to help me. My GP wasn't going to help me. I didn't have money for therapy. I was broke. Every woman who's escaping domestic violence is broke. We don't have money for therapy, right? So as I mentioned before, I have a background in web development and marketing. So I already have a background in that.
Nice.
And while I was on my healing journey, there was a famous influencer, Australian influencer, who does OnlyFans. You might not know who it is, so I won't say who it is, but she came out publicly with a story that she'd been with a guy who'd been abusing her, right? And she was talking about how they needed to pass the law in Australia that people could go to the domestic violence records and they could search to see if somebody else had been, you know, abusing someone else. And I thought to myself, why are we leaving this in the hands of the authorities? Like, it's how many years has it been that women are being killed by their abuser? This was now because I was seeing women die on the internet. I was seeing women die every day from domestic violence, and I was like, and we're just leaving this up to the police. We can't really do that anymore. We can't just leave this up to the police because nobody's doing anything, and women are dying, kids are dying, and I'm just sick of it, right? So I myself, right, I have the tools, I know what to do. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'll start talking when this. I had the tools and I knew what I needed to do. And I decided to build an app. Now, this app helps women from being in the relationship and escaping safely. My thought process, looking back on my relationship, the first part for me was realizing it was abuse, right? So the first part would be for them to have some sort of online chat that's trauma informed, where they can tell their story, and the chat can help them understand, not diagnose, but understand the patterns in the relationship of what's happening, so that they can come to the realization that they are in fact being abused, right? That it is abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, or whatever type of abuse it is. And then be able to have tools to make a plan to escape or leave, having some sort of helpline or having some sort of support, giving them instructions on how to open an online bank account so that they can start saving money. Basically, things that I needed when I was stuck in the relationship and I didn't have when I was there. I didn't know how to leave. I didn't know about online banking. I didn't know that there was free helplines that I could call. I didn't know that there were shelters. I did not know that anything of that existed. I thought that I was in a relationship with somebody that I loved and he loved me. I didn't know I was being abused. So it goes from being in the relationship, realizing that it's abuse, making a plan to leave, and then having tools that they can use to regulate on a daily basis, and also tools for them to be able to release memories from the past. Like for me, it was my miscarriage and things from my sexual abuse when I was 13 or 14. So the tools we have on there goes all the way from being in the relationship, realizing that it's abuse, making a plan to leave, a safe plan to leave, and being able to leave, and then eventually being able to have an affiliate program where we can help the women tell their story on the internet in a safe way, and they can spread the app and make a living for themselves, right? Because I wanted to make sure that I covered everything. Safety. What other problem I had when I was in this relationship is that I didn't have any money, right? So I can't obviously give women money to be able to leave, but I can offer them in the future for them to be able to dedicate their time in their life, like I'm doing now, into helping other women. So we have an affiliate program. In the future, my main goal was that when I was stuck in the relationship and I left this relationship, I had to find a job. And the last thing I wanted to do was go to work when I was broken. So what I would like to build in the future are sanctuaries where women can escape the domestic violence, like a shelter, but instead of them, when you go to a shelter, they give you somewhere to live and then you go on with life. You get a job and you don't actually heal because you can't, because you've either got kids or you've got to go to work or life just continues. So I want to be able to build a place where women can escape for 3 months and they get nice food, natural food, somewhere they can rest, therapy. So that's kind of my end goal. But the app for now is going to help women escape domestic violence and heal from trauma as well. So
Do
yeah,
you
that
have
was
a name for the app yet?
a massive rant. Sorry.
Do you have a name for the app yet?
It's called That Healing App. So far,
Oh,
I couldn't find a name for it, so I decided to call it That Healing App. And then once in the future, if we need to rebrand, we can, because I thought it needs to be something that someone's going to remember. And if they can't remember, they can think, oh, it's That Healing App, right?
yes. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is
We're launching.
brilliant.
We're launching after Christmas. I'm very excited. The app is nearly finished being built. I'll send it to you so that you can have a snoop round before it launches. But the heart of the app is a trauma-informed chat where you can dump all of your trauma, you can tell your story, and then it will open up different tools inside the app depending on where you are in your journey so that you can slowly heal and have tools to regulate on a daily basis. Basically everything that I needed to escape and to get to the healing phase the fastest as possible.
Yeah.
All the trial and errors that I've done through this time that I've been away from him, all of my health problems. So yeah, I'm very excited.
I'm so excited too. So Christmas means that when this episode drops, it's live and
Yeah,
living color. Oh
yeah,
my goodness. That is so
yeah.
exciting. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I
Girl.
saw these women dying on the news and I thought, I know what to do. I know what the solution is here. Why does this not exist? Nothing like that exists. There's apps out there for different things. Like I said
Yes.
before, there's an app out there for somatic healing, and then there's a yoga app, and then but you actually need a tiny bit of everything
Yeah.
there's lots of steps in the healing process.
Yes.
Mind, body, and soul aligned. So I'm very excited about that. And my biggest plan is the sanctuaries. If I can fund the sanctuaries through the app, which eventually I will, I'd like to also have a GoFundMe so that there are
Mhm.
funds for women who need to escape immediately, because I do know that I didn't leave because I didn't have any money.
Right.
So being able to have a GoFundMe where you can send money to a woman who needs to escape right now,
Hmm.
that's really important as well. I think there's lots of help out there. There's shelters, but there's just I couldn't afford therapy. Women can't afford therapy. It's really expensive. This is not, people need therapy. This is not saying that this is better than therapy. People need to
Hmm.
co-regulate with another person for them to heal. But this is a stepping stone for you to be able to realize that it's abuse, make a plan to leave, start to get your life together, right? So that you can
Yeah.
eventually have the money to be able to have therapy with somebody one on one. So it's a
Yeah.
stepping stone between, is this abuse and this is, I'm going to pay for therapy, basically.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Natalie, girl, kick the year off right. Uh. First of all, thank you for again coming back to finish this story. 'Cause I didn't know it was gonna be like this. Good
Gary,
Lord, it was loaded.
I'm gonna write a book, and I'm gonna go on Netflix, and I'm gonna have a Netflix series about that
There it
because
is. There it is. Because it's
this
a
needs to
whole
be an
lot.
example. Why are we not teaching stuff? I didn't know about this in school. Nobody
Yeah.
taught me about emotional abuse.
Yep.
I didn't know this.
Yep. It's
This
a
needs
lot
to be
out there.
this needs to be a Netflix series, not because I want loads of money, but because we need to be teaching generations. I have a niece who's 12. These people
Yes.
need to be seeing movies about this on the internet, about how people can be abusive and you can be manipulated into being in a relationship with someone for 5 years. Like,
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. You are so right. Sis, thank you again for
thank you
coming
for having
back, for sharing the rest, and for taking it a step further and being the change that needs to take place in the world.
me. Yeah,
We truly, wholeheartedly appreciate you. I'm so excited about that healing app. Brilliant name.
me
Probably don't
too.
have to rebrand that. That's amazing. And the fact that you were able to use your gifts and
Mm.
everything that you learn to now be a change and a lifeline for so many other people. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see how
God is
big this
working
blows
through
up.
me. God is working
Yes,
through me. I believe that. I
yes.
believe that I've been through this pain because God wanted me to do this.
Baby, listen, he can take all our trash and turn it into some kind of triumphant. So I am thankful for you. I am proud of you. I love you. This is awesome.
I love you
And
too.
let me just end by saying Happy New Year. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Let
Y'all,
2026 bless us all.
amen. This has been another amazing episode of the Can't Be Broken podcast, where we are rising above insecurities, releasing the burdens of shame and guilt, and reviving our God given power, purpose, and passion. The Confidence Way. Natalie, keep showing up, keep sharing your love, keep shining your light. And in the meantime, in between time, y'all know what it is. We gone. Pew, 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 pew. Confetti, 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 confetti.